So sometimes with projects, even medievally based projects, you have to find your information from outside of SCA sources. And so for this project, which is paper making, I searched the SCA through mailing lists and I did some networking, and I couldn't find anybody who had made paper in a medieval fashion using linen, which is really what I wanted to do. But I happened to find a gentleman who's not in the SCA but has a paper making company who specializes in handmade papers. And so I got some information from him as well as some supplies, and then I started working. Now, his suggestion to me was if I wanted to make paper out of linen, that I should contact a commercial pulping company, and they make custom pulps of whatever kind of combination of linen or cotton or probably exotic kinds of trees, barks, whatever, and they'll make a custom pulp for you. But I didn't really want to do that because I wanted to do it from the beginning and have the experience. So I looked at a couple other websites of how people have done it themselves with linen. And so what I got was clean linen, and I cut it up into little tiny pieces because these pieces are going to need to be further pulped down into a fluffy, pulpy mass to be able to be made into paper. And how I started that was I took linen and I cut them into strips, and I cut them on the bias so that the fibers, instead of being aligned this way, are aligned this way. So when I cut off the top, the little pieces that are cut are smaller. Many of them that I did, though, in the beginning, I cut just not on the bias, but just straight. And those fibers will be longer, so they'll be harder to be chopped into smaller pieces by my blender later. So I have these strips and a bunch of cut up pieces of the linen. And what I'm going to do now is cover it with water and let it soak for at least 24 hours so that the linen can get soft in the water and make it more easy to be pulped. Now, I did think that I could speed up this tiny chopping process by putting the linen into a paper shredder. And what I got was a whole lot of linen that got stuck in the shredder, plus a bunch of paper. And I think I almost broke the paper shredder, so I wouldn't recommend doing that route. However, the linen that I did rescue from the paper shredder that wasn't full of different kinds of office paper sort of looked like this. Kind of chewed up and sort of long fibers. And I think that this is going to be more difficult to chop up than this will. So I'm going to go with the manually chopped method, which was period. They chopped it into small pieces. So I'm going to cover this with water overnight and see what we get tomorrow. Okay, so what I have here is the fibers that have been soaking. They've actually been soaking for a couple weeks now. And when I opened it up, the fibers were very soft, but they had kind of a musty smell to them. So I just ran them through a sieve and rinsed them, and they're very, very soft. So hopefully they will blend very easily. Now I'm following the instructions, and there was a recipe to follow to get the right kind of, the right ratio of pulp to fiber. And it said take 4 cups of water, which I filled my blender up to 4 cups, and add about a 4-inch strip of fibers, 4-inch square. So I'm just going to take like 1 handful and guess that that's about 4.
Cold, 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 cold.
Shh, you're eating ice cream, that's why you're cold. All right.
No, my mouth was cold.
I'm going to start to blend, so it's going to get loud. You ready? Set to blend about a minute or until it gets cloudy. lid here. Sort of an old blender. Right, you can see why we're doing this outside. There's a whole lot of blurbing going on with this. Oh, here's a big
Can I
wad.
go inside?
So now I'm going to take the pulp, pour it into my big vat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does look kind of yucky. I'm going to check it out. Doesn't quite look like these fibers have all been ground up nicely. So I'm going to take half of them out.
Flop.
And fill it back up. These. Out.
Flop. Flop.
Thank you for the sound effects, Lily.
Flop.
That's better. So what I discovered in doing all this is that if I take about a handful of my fibers, they already cut up and soaked fibers, and I put about 3 cups of water. Well, that's a little bit more. 3 cups of water in the blender. And blend it till it starts making kind of a grindy sound, like that. Turn it off. And then I'm going to pull out about 2/3 of the fibers. Now these fibers are, they're cut up, but they're still kind of chunky. The fibers aren't really short. So I pulled out a bunch of those and reblend this. Then it seems to be easier on my blender and I get shorter fiber pieces. So this is my vat of pulp and water, and as you can see it's cloudy and it kind of looks like it's chunky, but I'm able to sort of break up any of the chunks and just make it look kind of cloudy. I'm hoping that the fibers are going to be short enough to make smooth paper. We will find out. And then over here, what I have is my setup for after I have the paper made. This is a damp towel on top of a paper making felt. This looks like a synthetic material. It came with the paper making kit, and it's just on top of another hand towel and on top of a piece of cardboard, and then underneath there's more felt, and these are all damp. And over on this side, it's just another piece of cardboard that I'll put the finished piece of paper on. This is what I will be making the paper with. This is called a mold and decal. This is the mold, and it's a wooden frame. And this is the decal, and this is what makes the edge of the paper.